Peace. This is Voodoo Queen Kalinda Laveau coming to you from New Orleans, Louisiana. And I want to speak with you today about New Orleans Voodoo, or moreover, Louisiana Voodoo. So, this particular expression of voodoo that we have here in Louisiana has been accredited to New Orleans, but it was actually created, nurtured, and practiced all over Louisiana. And we'll also find out that this particular expression of voodoo was also practiced in regions outside of what we presently know as Louisiana. So you may have heard of Marie Laveau, voodoo dolls, gree bags, voodoo queens dancing with snakes. All of these things pertain to voodoo in Louisiana. So voodoo came to Louisiana by way of the transatlantic slave trade, and it came directly from Western and Central Africa. We had enslaved Africans who were Wolof, Bambara, Akan, Igbo, Fan, Ewe, and Congo, just to name a few. This particular expression of voodoo is heavily Ewe and Congo influenced. So when our ancestors got here, they were forced to make a way out of no way. They didn't forget everything that they knew. They did not abandon their traditions and their culture. They continued to communicate with their ancestors, our ancestors. They continued to communicate with the divine forces of nature. But they had to be very clever about how they did this because voodoo was illegal. A lot of times gathering unsupervised was illegal. Even playing drums or having a drum in your possession was illegal. And there were serious penalties for that. Death. So we had to get very creative about how we expressed ourselves within our religious systems. And the voodoo here had to be formed and transformed with the situation of very traumatic conditions. So a lot of the voodoo that we have has to do with rebellion. It has to do with revolt. It has to do with protection. It has to do with medicine. It had to provide solutions to what we were needing due to our traumatic experiences here. So in addition to voodoo and other forms of African spirituality that are present in Africa, there's also voodoo and African spirituality throughout the Caribbean, throughout Latin America, and throughout the United States by way of the transatlantic slave trade. So Brazil, you have candomblé. Haiti, you have their expression of voodoo. Cuba, you have lukumi. Within the United States, you have Louisiana voodoo. You also have hoodoo. Now, a lot of people believe that the voodoo in Louisiana came directly to Louisiana from Haiti because of the Haitian Revolution. You can even find in books now, and this is misinformation, that all of the Creole, the Afro Creole culture that is present in Louisiana, in particularly New Orleans, comes solely from Haiti. So this includes the music, this includes the food, the architecture, and of course the voodoo. Now, this is incorrect. Afro Creole culture, and voodoo in particular, was present here in Louisiana nearly 100 years before the Haitian Revolution began. Now, it is easy to get confused because Haiti, or what was known back then as Saint-Domingue, was a French territory. Louisiana was a French territory. Haiti, just like Louisiana, contained Africans who were Fan, Congo, Ewe, Igbo, just to name a few. And of course, that's the case with Louisiana. So we do have a lot of similarities in our culture. some of the words in our language is, we have the same words for certain things, but the language is not completely the same. And neither is the voodoo, neither are the dances, neither are the customs. So Afro Creole culture in Louisiana is not just a product of Afro Creole culture in Haiti. There's Afro Creole culture that developed in Haiti, and there's Afro Creole culture that developed in Louisiana simultaneously but separately. There are lots of similarities, but not exactly the same. Louisiana has its own Afro Creole culture. Haiti has its own Afro Creole culture, which means that voodoo in Haiti and voodoo in Louisiana are similar, but not the same, and the voodoo in Louisiana did not derive from the voodoo in Haiti, contrary to a lot of misinformation that's out right now. So I want to speak a little bit about Afro Creole culture. Now, this is a popular topic in media right now. The word Creole has a lot of misinformation surrounding it at this time. Lots of people believe that Creole is used to express a certain identity when one doesn't want to identify with being black or of African descent. So to say that I'm Creole must mean that I'm trying to say I'm not black or I'm not of African descent. This is incorrect. This is misinformation. Creole is a culture. It's not a race. Let me say it again. Creole is a culture. It's not a race. Now, you find different forms of Afro Creole throughout the Caribbean, throughout Latin America, but also here in Louisiana. Some people mistakenly believe that being Creole is all about having a certain skin tone. That's not true. Creole can range from very dark skin all the way to light skin. Creole is not limited to Creole gens de couleur libre, which are the free people of color. Historically, those were people who were not enslaved. They could own property. They could have businesses. You also had enslaved Africans who were Creole as well. These enslaved Africans had dark skin, light skin, and every color in between. So it doesn't make any difference. No one is more Creole than the other. Louisiana Creole, historically, may have been a person of African descent who was enslaved, who was free, who had dark skin, who had light skin. Now, historically, the word Creole has meant a few different things throughout Louisiana history. But what I'm speaking of right now, in particular, is Afro Creole culture, that which I am a part of. I like to say Afro Creole because I want to emphasize the part of Creole culture that is most often overlooked, the African part. When you look to Creole culture or Afro Creole culture, you will look at the music and the dance, very African. You can look at the food, very African. You look at the spiritual tradition, voodoo, African. Even the language, although it contains a lot of elements of French and even Spanish, many of the words and the sentence structure is African. I do want to get more into this at a later time, but let me reiterate. If you are hearing that being Creole has something to do with being something other than African or black, or trying to separate from being African or black, that is misinformation. If you are hearing that being Creole has only to do with historically the Creole gens de couleur libre, or free people of color, that is misinformation. If you are hearing that Creole has anything to do with being solely a person who has light skin, that is misinformation. So I want to get into a little bit about the terms voodoo and hoodoo.